none of these women would be here today without you.
Sometimes you say things not necessarily that you believe, but you want people to hear.
I know I definitely have an element of imposter syndrome, but I think all three of us do to some extent.
I think throughout your career, what do you think has been the hardest part?
I collapsed on the corridor. By the time they got me to A&E, I had no reflexes in my legs at all.
Here we are again.
We're here again.
Going back to our roots today, aren't we? We're going to do a bit of a deep dive into me and you, apparently. And
yes,
what
a proper behind the brood episode, because we've had a few guests on now. So we're going back to the reason why we started it. Obviously, Rob's not here today because we're days away from Brood Live. So
that was a nervous laugh.
I know the brain fog might be real today, but Rob's not here because he's busy doing all the printing stuff in
all
the
stuff
background.
We can't do.
Yes, all anything technical, anything past sending an email. Coordinating it and all that's still.
Well, I think with live events, it's always going to be that way. But weirdly, we are pretty organised.
Unnervingly organised.
Yes.
I mean, considering last time, like I was thinking on the way, I've got an outfit. I've got makeup in stock at home, which I never had
which is a rarity
in my makeup bag. And considering last time I dashed out the toilets 5 minutes before, I don't think I had a scrap of makeup on. I had to pick up brass from my sister's porch, didn't I? Because we'd moved 3 days before.
That's all just the usual, isn't it?
That's the usual. So it's a bit unnerving to be organised. So,
but again, I think with the nod to Brood Live, we kind of, whenever we speak to people or whenever we're Brood Lives on, people always want to know more about us.
Yeah.
And I think that's something we're going to try and talk about on Friday, isn't it? And hence what we're going to talk about today on the podcast is yes, why Brood came about, but also
what's happening
during. During and before as well, the lead up to before Brood and what our careers were doing and family life looked like. Because I think, again, with us doing the interviews and the features throughout the magazine, everybody's got a story. Everybody's got a unique story, and I know I certainly do. I learn a lot from listening to other people's experiences, so hopefully people can listen to our experiences, what we're going to speak about today, and that'll be valuable to someone. Yeah,
definitely, I think so. And that, normally we, the last couple of ones we've nervously got on stage. I mean, that first one as well, I think it was just like, "Hi, welcome to Brood," and ran off as fast as
Thanks
we
for coming.
Yeah, but I think especially doing the podcast as well. I mean, and just knowing that it's a really safe space in the room as well to share. And I think particularly I was thrown in the deep end at London because somebody's filming overran, and I was just kind of forced to speak. Burst into tears and so broke the ice that way.
I know, but I think that again, look what came off the back of that. Other people opening up, the questions that were being asked. It
was a really impromptu kind of
everybody did
interactive moment where everybody shared, and I think and it's only afterwards. I think there's still. I know I definitely have an element of imposter syndrome, but I think all three of us do to some extent as well.
I think we all do, and I think that again. That's something what we need to overcome, and maybe today will be part of that. Is just talking about what is holding you back as well.
And it's that belief in yourself, I think. And obviously when we first started, it was always me and you doing the reels, wasn't it? Because Rob would be like, it was his worst nightmare to get in front of the camera, and we kind of pushed him into doing the podcast because equally he wasn't then getting any recognition as being an integral cog of Brood, and we couldn't do it without him. So it's been good to push him out of his comfort zone. But even though me and you have always kind of been there at the face of it all,
kind of played at it, haven't we?
Yeah, and it's not without nerves at all. And I think, it's like even with this most recent cover, how much was I worrying, like thinking, God, is it dead narcissistic being on the cover? Like people are going to think, oh God, she started a magazine just to put herself on the cover. And it was, but everybody was like, no, absolutely, you've got to be on it. None of these women would be here today without you. And I think it's like, when I got off the stage at Brood, the amount of people that wanted to stop and talk about various things that I'd shared, be it from having endometriosis or having a son with autism that's not talking yet, and all the health story, which obviously we're going to deep dive into all of this. But I think when you when you're forced into opening up and sharing those things yourself, you realise that it does help other people, and that everybody who stopped me after that all really took something away from it.
Yeah, and
it made them emotional as well.
And again, I think you should, when I say you, I think we should take confidence in that, because people are genuinely interested in what we've been through and what we're going through with building a business and the family juggle. Hence, you know, why the magazine came about. And like I said, everybody's doing the same. And I think that conversation, what we'll get on Friday, not just from us, but from people being in a safe space and talking about the concerns of whether it's mum guilt, dad guilt, you know, how to run a business, all that will be shared, and a conversation will be had. And I think that's why the events are so successful. You know, we always say, don't we, it sounds cheesy, but you know, it's a magical feeling in that room, because
the vibes are
really high and really positive, and the conversation just flows. There's no barriers whatsoever, and you can put a price on that, really. And I think that's what, for me, I want to try and get across on the podcast today by me and you opening up a little bit to say, you don't always have to worry about saying the right thing. And I think that's something, for my background, is I am a people pleaser. We both are. We both know that. So sometimes you say things not necessarily that you believe, but you want people to hear. Yeah. And I think once you get past that, I think you grow very quickly and very strongly.
I mean, I'm 42 now, and I think I felt a real shift.
Oh, I'm mid-30s.
I know. You're not mid-30s. You're 40 next year.
38 as it stands. Calm
yourself down. You can't class yourself as mid-30s now. Anyway, but no, I'm loving, because I think I felt a real shift. And I think it's obviously through doing BROOD as well, and definitely being involved in Women's Aid over the last 3 years has helped my confidence no end as well. But I think turning 40 as well, it's not like an overnight you wake up, I'm 40, I'm suddenly like full of confidence. It's not that. It's kind of like, I don't know, I think like even talking today and thinking, we've got past that initial, why would anybody want to hear what we've got to say?
Yeah, just being here in itself is a progression from last year.
Exactly, yeah. And because we know people keep saying, you know, I find it dead uncomfortable to say things like, to even repeat that someone said, oh, you're dead inspirational, or it feels like, I think when you've grown up with almost being told that talking about yourself in a positive way means you're being big-headed or something, like, oh, she loves herself. But when you listen to people like, I mean, you know, I'm a what's it called, self-improvement junkie, a bit of like, I'm all about the motivational videos.
You love a bit of YouTube, don't you?
I do, yeah.
And a star, you love a star and the moon.
The stars and the moon and the good vibes and the crystals. But like I listened to Oprah, she was talking about when people say, oh, she loves herself, she says, I take that as a compliment, she says. And I'm like, yes, I do. Yes, I love myself. I fill up my own cup before I can help anybody else, because how can you pour from an empty cup? And when you listen to more and more people like that, and you think, you know, actually, it's not big-headed to share your journey or to be proud of yourself, because actually when you look back on what you've achieved, and like, even last year, making the finals of Woman of the Year at This Is Manchester Awards, I kind of felt a bit like, I don't want to shout about it too much because I'll be showing off. But I don't judge other people. You want to
see somebody else, exactly, and that's why you got to see somebody else looking at you. And I think when it's not bullshit as well, you're just being transparent. You're not lying.
No,
you're just being transparent about what you're doing and what you are. Yeah. And I think that comes through. So I think the moment you get over that, like I said, that growth happens really quickly. And I think you become a better person for it.
Yeah. And I think BROOD as well, because everybody in that room, this is the gorgeous thing about Friday, and obviously there's new people every time, and every time you get people booking on and you don't know them, so I suppose there is a danger of that somebody would come along and not have that same positivity that everybody else. But we seem to attract the people that everybody in that room are just cheerleaders and just want everybody else to win.
Our team.
Yeah, because everybody's been through something, so they know how hard it is to get to the point, whichever stage it is. Even if you're just in the first few weeks of starting up your business and you're in that room, there's somebody can relate to you, whether you're going from a small business to a medium business or a medium to a large business. That's either something that someone can relate to or something someone's aspiring to. So you're always going to find a connection, and they're the people, and it's the people of BROOD and what's really special about it that have grown our confidence in going, God, you guys are amazing. Like, because BROOD is something that's become such an important part of their lives, and actually it wouldn't exist without us, and it wouldn't be the same it is without us having the journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, it's just owning that now.
Yeah.
And then moving forward and with it. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah. So for those of you who are watching on YouTube at BROOD Magazine, you're probably wondering why I've got this lovely hair wrap on my head. Well, we just wanted to say a huge thank you to our sponsors, Hair Made Easy, without whom the Behind the BROOD podcast would not have been possible. So Hair Made Easy, you need to check them out. Nicola, the founder of Hair Made Easy, has become a good friend of ours since we started BROOD. She's an incredible female founder. She's created some amazing hair products that go to salons throughout the UK. And also, there are loads of products that can really help you at home, especially if you're rubbish with your hair like me. So these hair wraps, for example, have stopped my hair being frizzy. It helps it dry faster. She's got the most amazing brushes. So dry your hair the easy way. Treat your hair with the extra large hair wrap from Hair Made Easy. 100% bigger than...
Nice. That was lovely, that.
Are you all right there, boys?
It's bloody lovely. You'll never catch me having a show out on these bad boys now.
Well, I don't know why you've got one on. You've got no hair.
Hey, come on.
Anyway, if you want to join me and the boys and get yourself some Hair Made Easy products, then check out hairmadeeasy.com.
I think I want to ask a question to you on that note.
Okay.
It's a question we ask a lot in our interviews, and we always get a completely different answer because obviously every story is unique. Throughout your career, what do you think has been the hardest part?
Well,
up to present day, because obviously
I think
this magazine lark isn't easy, is it?
Well, I think pre-kids, obviously for me, I had a wrecking ball thrown into my career. I was 21. I started life as a nursery nurse, worked in a residential home, was doing a college course, advanced health and social care and psychology. I was all about the care industry. That was where I was going to be. And I got a job at Salford Royal Hospital doing occupational therapy. And I was in my second year doing a degree to become a qualified occupational therapist. So it was kind of part-time at uni and part-time on the wards. And I was working in the acute neurology rehab ward at the time, very closely with the occupational therapists and the physios. So, there's people with really bad brain injuries and the work was really physical. And it was during that time that one day I was just in the staff room and I couldn't get out my chair. I was like, oh God, my back pain. And it came on so fast. And I really struggled walking it was like, the pain was immense, and it was around 6 months. And then it got to the point where this surgeon said, right, we're going to do some day surgery because your disc's bulging onto your spinal cord and you'll either be better or exactly the same. So, of course, it was like, great, but, got nothing to lose, go for it. And he said, it's day surgery, you'll be in and out, you'll be fine. So, went for the surgery, and they said, you have to be awake during it because we have to be aware if we're catching your nerves.
Jesus.
So, I was obviously heavily sedated, but I was awake. And all I can remember, it was, they caught nerve after nerve after nerve. And I remember the anaesthetist arguing with the consultant saying, I can't give her any more anaesthetic without putting her to sleep. I didn't get to go home that night for obvious reasons because of the complications. They did send me home the next day, and within 2 hours, I'd collapsed back in an ambulance and was in for a week. And it seemed like I was I was getting better. I was back on my feet. I had this kind of brace on and everything. And then it was 6 weeks later, actually, I was on my graded return back into work, and it was my 3rd day back at work, and I was walking towards the wards, and all of a sudden I just felt really, really funny. And it was like the feeling in my legs from my toes going upwards was just going. I collapsed on the corridor. By the time they got me to A&E, I had no reflexes in my legs at all. No feeling, sensation, anything. I was on the spinal unit, which I ended up on for 2 weeks. So I was actually on a ward where I'd worked. Working.
Wow.
And it was pretty frightening because I kept, the doctors weren't sure if I was ever going to walk again. Then they did a brain scan, and they found these white spots on my brain, and they said, we need to move you to the neurology ward. And obviously I knew all about the neurology wards. And that was when the diagnosis of MS came up, and they said I needed a lumbar puncture. They did the lumbar puncture, which was pretty horrendous. If anyone's had a lumbar puncture, it's like, God, horrendous. And then I say thankfully it wasn't MS, but they didn't know what it was.
Still the unknown.
They didn't know what it was. And essentially I spent 4 weeks in hospital without any sensation or any use of my legs, and anybody wondering, not knowing if I was going to walk again, and I was 21. And all the while in the background as well, I just left a not very nice relationship.
So that was after that. Well, during.
Right,
yeah. Okay.
And then because I was quite vulnerable, I think I kind of went back to that relationship. I ended up coming out of hospital, had to learn to walk again, I was in a wheelchair, Zimmer frame, crutches, and then it was just kind of basically that happened for every 3 months for the next year. Jeez. So obviously
still no answers though.
Still no answers.
It was happening.
Other than they were just saying, we think because of them catching the nerves, your nerves are inflamed. But because I was 21, every time I learnt to walk again, I'd be like heels on, out partying. I was completely in denial. You know me, I don't like to party.
No, really.
Yeah. But what that meant career-wise was essentially when I did get to go back in between these flare-ups, I was on admin work, which was so far removed from what I wanted to do. And I'm essentially sat in the broom cupboard off the main office with all the therapists and not getting to do what I loved and be around people. And eventually it come to the point where I wasn't able to do that job anymore. I was signed off from it, and therefore I had to give up my uni course. So I was a bit lost, and all I was continually told was that I was too poorly to work. And essentially that was the case for much of my 20s. And obviously you know me now, how ambitious I am, and I never stop. And so it was really tough during those times. During that time I met Rob, got married, and then we...
So what? Obviously, we could talk about the 20s and 30s as well. Do you know what I mean? But but from a work perspective, where did the writing come into it? The books. Obviously, I know the BROOD has stemmed from you being a natural writer and having that passion and being in your book. For many years before it even come to fruition. Do you know what I mean? So at what point did that come in with the kids as well?
To be fair, I started probably writing the book just a bit of therapy for me, because it was me drawing on some of my own experiences of being in a coercive relationship. And I was pregnant with our first, and it gave me something to do and kept me occupied. But I never ever intended on anyone reading it, and that was till I used to pick it up, put it down over the years, sometimes a year in between. And then when we got to having our fourth baby, one of my good friends died suddenly. He was called Scott, and he was only early 30s, and it was such a shock. And Scott was one of the people that would always say to me, you need to be more confident. He also was my hairdresser, so he always wanted me to post a selfie after I'd have my hair done, which I was like, oh my God, I can't post a selfie. I can't think of anything worse. And he was like, you need to be more confident. So when he died, I don't know, I was actually in hospital again, my second home for a few years, but I was in Liverpool Women's Hospital, and as I say, pregnant with our fourth, on my own and just grieving. But all I could hear was him saying, you need to be more confident, and it was like he was, I know it sounds again very spiritual, but it was like he was pushing me to do something. And I said, text Rob and I said, can you come and visit me tomorrow and bring my laptop? And that was it. I just literally threw myself into finishing that book, and I just decided I was going to finish it and I was going to put myself out there, and that was Dressed Up as Love, my first book.
You do hear that a lot though, and it takes me back to when we were speaking to Sari. Why does it take you know, a life-changing moment like that, whether it be a cancer diagnosis or somebody close to you dying, that you almost get this kick up the arse? And it's like we touched on at the beginning of the podcast, like when you mature to your 30s, 40s, 50s and you get over these demons, it's a shame it holds you back for so long, isn't it?
Yeah, I think, and it's not even like, because at the time it was more kind of feel the fear but do it anyway. I mean, don't get me wrong, before that came out, for 3 days beforehand, I absolutely I could not stop crying. And I was like, what have I done? What if everyone's going to think it's rubbish, it's this, it's that? And it was the self-doubt took over. And there's still element. Obviously I've done a second book since, and like I say, that was the catalyst in me going, right, you know, Brood, it's been in the goal book for however many years because of needing this touchstone for and a community that I couldn't find alone. And obviously meeting you and obviously Rob's co-founding as well, and it's like between the three of us, what we've created with Brood is amazing. But that self-doubt is still, I mean, you know what I'm like. Every time a new edition goes out, I wake up at 3 a.m. for at least 5 nights afterwards, once it goes to print, thinking, oh my God, have we made a mistake on this? Because you just, I think especially, I try not to, but I've always been a bit of a perfectionist, and I've always had this need to overachieve, and I don't know why.
Looking closer to home now, look at your daughter.
Yeah, and she's a mirror image.
You can see it, can't you?
Yeah, I mean, she's felt so poorly at the start of this week, and she actually hasn't been poorly, and all I can think of is because she's got tests, and she kept saying how it's going to decide her sex, and I do see, and I keep trying to say to her, doesn't matter if you're set for everything, you know, as long as you do your best, that's all you can, and it doesn't matter, we're proud of you anyway. And I try and take that pressure off her, but it's just inner, and it was just the same with me. And I think I've tried really hard now to not, like, I've never read one of my books again since I've done it, because the thought of reading it, because I know these mistakes, I know I wasn't, when I did my first one, as good of a writer as I am now, but
that was always going to happen though. I could say about photography or the PT work I did beforehand, you know what I mean? I think, but again, relating it back to kids, how hard is it seeing yourself in your kids? Yeah. Because Alfie, to the food he likes, to his behaviour, to his ability at sport or at school, is the mirror image, and it scares the life out of me. Yeah. And I try and I over-exaggerate things now to show him that it doesn't have to be like that. Do you know what I mean? And we've touched on this before on the podcast, that you'd like to think, whether you're setting an example about what you eat, or you go into the gym, or you're active, or your work ethic, you'd like to think that is having some kind of impact on your kids without you directing it at them. You know, they're seeing it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, so it's got to have. But it's changing those self-doubts and proving to them, for me, that it doesn't always have to be like that. I don't want him to be held back like I felt I held myself back. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, we always joke, don't we, because Lila Rose and Alfie get on like house on fire. They are like a mini you and me. But like, it's also it's hard to try and not project your own, because like Lila started high school. That's what
I'm alluding to, really. Absolutely.
It's like sometimes I find, because I didn't always have the best of time with girls, I always found it so much easier to get on with lads. I was a bit of a tomboy. I loved football, and I didn't really get, like, I think girls during the school years can be brutal, and I just didn't understand that. I wasn't one of those girls, so I really struggled. And Lila starting high school for me was like, oh my God, you know, just feeling that she was going into the lion's den. But actually, you know, she's doing all right. She's had a couple of moments, I think, like every kid does. But I'm really conscious to not project my fears 100%. Onto her as well.
Correct.
So I'm trying to see the bits. And already, like, yes, she's got that overachieving stuff and she's got certain elements that, and also good bits, like she loves a drama and a dancing and all the confidence I had as a kid before it kind of gets knocked out of you. She's got, but it's just seeing actually she has already got more confidence at this age and belief in herself than what I have. So
which is amazing. Do you know what I mean? So it doesn't.
You have to pat yourself on the back for that as well, don't you?
I think so. But obviously, different scenarios and different age eras will bring different challenges. And I think
bloody hard work.
Well, it is. With me and Kath, obviously, Kath's not here at the moment. She's filming away. But we've both individually watched adolescence.
Adolescence. Yeah.
We've both individually, and then we spoke about it afterwards. And Alfie's in year 5, he's going into year 6, and obviously we've got the whole high school chat to come. So I'm watching a young lad like that go through that. And then, for me, like my mum and dad have watched it with no emotional attachment whatsoever.
Yeah.
I've watched it, cried my eyes out.
Yeah.
Because
and you don't really cry.
And I don't at all.
You're not a crier like Rob.
No, but for me, I just saw Alfie all the way through, the innocence of the lad. He obviously wasn't a lovely lad, but
from a normal family, I think that's the
normal family.
Yeah, when they say no.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Yeah, and so for me, it was very relatable and scared the hell out of us as parents. But and me and Kath had conversations about, we need to ensure he goes to this school and we need to put this in place. And I said, you can't.
Yeah.
No matter what school he goes to, he's going to have the same hoops to jump through and the same journey to navigate through. And all we can be is there for him at that particular time. You can't predict how it's going to go at all. And for me, it's about, he's got a really nice core group of friends at the moment. If he goes anywhere with them, for me, that's the most important thing.
That is massively important. Obviously, our older two, they've stuck pretty much with the primary school friends, which doesn't always happen.
No,
but
and again, it might not happen to...
No, but we watched that. But we watched it with Cole and Lila Rose. Actually.
Yeah, which is interesting because me and Kath had that conversation. Do we let Alfie? And we agreed, and I think it's the right decision. Alfie is too young.
He's just
he doesn't need to be exposed to that because it would scare the hell out of him. Yeah. But I think for Lila Rose and Cole, who are in high school, they're already in that environment. They'll probably, Do
you know what? It was kind of a good thing though as well, because it gave the opportunity for lots of questions from both us asking them and them asking us. But it also reassured us a little bit as well in that, they're a lot more aware of things that maybe we didn't realise, but also there's certain things that they weren't, like Cole, he knows who Andrew Tate is, and he thinks he's like, he's not one of these young lads that is being influenced. And he says, none of my friends like Andrew Tate. Right. He's heard him other boys talk about, but not his circle of friends. And that was kind of nice.
Not in that manner as well.
No. And that was nice and reassuring, because it is scary what they can access. But obviously, as you know, Rob's, I think it drives the kids mad how many, settings they've got on the phone. If it was me on my own, they could probably access shitloads of stuff. Yeah. But with Rob, he's so clued up. They have so many restrictions on what they can actually access, but still be in the social media world so that they're not isolated from friends and stuff. And it's just getting that balance. It's really hard.
Of course it is. And again, that's what it highlights, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I'm sure the conversation off the back of that but it's been huge, hasn't it? I've never known a response like it. And I think purely and simply because of that relatability. Yeah. I think everybody's got a kid who at least spends half an hour in the bedroom on the phone talking to their friends or on social media. Yeah. And that's how easy and how quick it can determine an outcome like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And the bullying aspect, I think, obviously, like when you're bullied at school, it's an awful thing to go through, but like you used to be able to go home and then that was your safe space. Nobody was going to phone your house phone and then give you a load of crap. Well, your parents were in the remit, but now it's constant and there's no getting away from it. And it makes me feel really sad for those people going through that, to think teenage years are so difficult anyway. So to have that on top, so obviously it gave us opportunities to open up to the kids as well. And I think what's really important is I think you look at your parents as these people that you you adore them, and you don't imagine that they've ever done anything wrong. And I think a lot of the thing as a teenager is shame of like worrying, what are they going to be let down by me? I mean, I was as naive as even like swearing when I got to high school. I was like, oh, I'm not allowed to swear, but I had to swear to be part of the, so you don't stand out at high school. You just start doing it for like every other word for fun, just to fit in. But I think making yourself relatable, and me and Rob took the time to sort of talk to the kids and say, look, you don't, nothing at all that you tell us can ever stop us loving you. Like, and just know that we, I know we're grown up now, but we were teenagers and we've been through stuff. And I kind of opened up, like, obviously my mum and dad split up and my mum left the family home just as I was going into fourth year. What's that now? I can't remember. Year 10, is it? Or
yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, year 10.
Proper old now. Fourth year. And I was, before that, like an A-star student, hardly got detention, almost got picked on for being a bit of a goody two-shoes and everything. Like I said, proper overachiever, wanted to be best at everything. And then within 2 weeks of that, I was on report. But obviously, my dad was going through a grieving process at home. I wanted to be the perfect daughter at home, but at school was the place where I was letting out all that anger and rage and confusion and upset that I was going through. So I said to the kids, like, I was on report. I was getting 2 detentions at least every night that I couldn't keep up with. So I was like double detention every night. Like they talked about, they call it skipping class. Me and Rob were laughing.
Who calls it skipping?
Cole and Lila.
Oh, do they?
Yeah,
wagging it.
Yeah, wagging it. That's what me and Rob
okay.
say. It was a wagging it and I said, oh yeah. Once I got on the bus at dinner and just went to Bury instead of, and they were like, oh my God, Mum. And I opened up and said, I shoplifted, I started smoking, I started drinking, also, and they were so shocked, but then not in a way, it's not to encourage them and tell them that it's all right. I explained how it didn't make me feel better and how sad it made me and stuff, but it's just letting them know that, like we all make bad decisions in life, and that's how we learn, and it's how we, when things happen, it's how you respond to them that gives the outcome. And that sometimes, if they're faced with a choice of what to do, or if someone's like Lila had it, someone was wanting her to skip class, and it's like she admitted she was tempted because she wanted to and it's just about talking, knowing that you could talk to your parents, I think, and making it known that when none of us are perfect, nobody, and I think setting that expectation from those years is a good thing.
From that program alone, if it opens a conversation like that, to separate our 2 families, it's allowed you to speak to your older children that you necessarily wouldn't have done on a Tuesday night. It would have been the usual. And then from mine and Catherine's point of view, it's just give us a heads up of the dangers out there as well, and a bit of a reality check of this is the world we're living in. Because again, when we were that age, it was completely different. I don't think I just about remember mobile phones coming out. Do you know what I mean? But it shows that
until after the left school.
It wasn't. We're bringing our kids up in a whole different world, and I think that's the importance of programs like Adolescence, that it brings that conversation to the table, and at least we can talk about it, and everybody's aware of the situation. Because like I said, we've had 2 different experiences from that program, so people up and down the country would have watched it in different ways and benefited in different ways as well. But I thought it was fantastic. No,
it was. And obviously I just wanted to ask you, we digressed a little bit, we've dived into me and my challenges career wise, but I think I know what your answer is going to be anyway, because we're living it.
Well, my backstory is a lot different to you. I think the only thing in regards to my backstory would be I was a personal trainer for 15 years. It's all I ever knew, lived and breathed, and I was good at it. So in regards to challenges, it didn't offer many in regards to what I'm going through now. But I did take that decision to change careers. I people ask me why. I just found it a little bit like Groundhog Day. I did want this challenge, whether that's after having Alf or what, I'm not sure, but I did want a new challenge in my life, and it has been one. So I took the plunge to go into photography, complete 360 on the career, which took a lot of people by surprise, because I was always Tom the PT. Do you know what I mean? Whether it's family and friends asking advice or clients, it's just the world I was in and always have been. So it was quite hard to shake the not stigma, but that label of being a PT.
Well, I mean, we still pick your brains now, don't we?
Well, yeah. No, which is fine. Is fine, yeah. But I was so determined that I wanted to be a photographer and be known as Tom Pitfield, the photographer. I think that's why I took that complete change. There's no room for doing half and half and dipping my toe in. I just had to go for it. And looking back now, I think I was mental, but there was just something in me that had that determination to do. And I think, I'm there now. I am known as Tom Pitfield, the photographer, which fills me with, a lot of pride and stuff. And people are recognising my work, and I just love it. I absolutely love the photography world, building relationships, doing the work, not knowing what's coming from week to week. And obviously the opportunity to be a part of this magazine journey as well has just been unbelievable, and something I never anticipated. But complements the photography.
So therefore, it's not mental. All it is that it's like the mental side of it that everybody kind of associates, and it's with being self-employed. Because even though you were self-employed as a PT, wasn't you? But you've got that safety. You was part of a country club. You've got that consistency. You never worried about having clients or knowing where your money was coming from. But if you're starting from new, and obviously me and Rob, the business we had before this, was flying. And where we'd be now, I don't even think about when we can't get
don't think about it too
weeks. Much. But like if we'd have carried on with that we would have been 8 years down the line more with that business. But we took a complete standstill to that, to throw everything into BROOD. And so that's the mental bit is starting from scratch. I think that's the way it's seen, whereas what you taught is just there's a ladder, find your career as soon as you leave school, go to college, whatever, get your trade, and then climb it, get to the top. But so then if you pivot from that, I think especially generational why people we're the first generation
I do think that's getting a lot better. I really do. I think people, not that I know many people in their 20s, but by all accounts
we still are, aren't we?
they are doing their own thing. They're not just jumping on the corporate ladder and it's the be all and end all to be at the top. I think people are doing careers because of enjoyment and because of the financial stability it can give them from a different aspect than a 2.4 children type job. Do you know what I mean?
I think it's like important with like Instagram and stuff, and it can be seen having your own business. Like, I mean, I'm guilty because social media, I'm always drained by the end of the day. But then if you've gone somewhere or done something, you have to you think, I better post that.
I think in our position, we're part of our brand is our personality, hence the podcast today.
But when you're knackered, you don't really want to get on and go. It's not because we don't want to show the real side, but that's what this is for, really. Because we don't always put it on social because we're so busy and we're running here and there and everywhere. It's the last thing on the list, isn't it?
But it shouldn't be, but
no,
it is.
BROOD's very much about showing that real side of. It's not mental to follow your dreams. Actually, it's amazing. But it's a flipping roller coaster.
Absolutely.
It's not easy. It's not easy to get clients on board. It's not easy, especially with a magazine. I think where we've said it before. Obviously, Rob doing websites. He gets a website job. He knows he's got his portfolio. Shows his portfolio. They take him on there, and he gets paid. Like same with photography and stuff. And you kind of know where you're up to. But with the magazine, he had a good 18 months of building up stats, followers, and readership. Because how would anybody want to advertise or even be on the cover or what if there's nobody reading it? Correct. So that's it's a whole different ball game.
No, it is, and again, the challenge from what photography brought me after PT has been upped again through co-founding a magazine. And it's probably the hardest thing I've ever done. It really is, but I firmly believe it'll also give me the the best reward I'll ever have.
Yeah.
And it does, the job satisfaction we get off the back of Friday, for example.
Friday will be buzzing.
We'll be on absolute high because
we'll be shaking like a leaf beforehand.
we built this brand, and again, that's why we're still doing it. We're still training it because we firmly believe in it. We firmly believe the community we're bringing together.
Going back to the challenges, obviously, like I say, we've lived through it really, because BROOD is 3 in April, Iris is 3 in April. So Iris, it's always BROOD and Iris are growing together, and obviously when I think of you and the challenges in your career post juggling kids, it's without a doubt, obviously, Kath getting the job with the Good Ship Murder. Was Iris 3 months old? We was at our dining table.
About 3 months, like I said, remember it well because we was at your house and we were just building BROOD from scratch, weren't we, around the dining table. And Kath got this call. So a bit of background towards that. After Kath left Coronation Street, a bit like we just talked about then, it's job in, job out. There's no guarantees whatsoever, and trying to plan, heaven forbid, 3 or 4 months in advance, you've no chance. So basically, the reason why I'm telling you that is because when Good Ship Murder came in, Iris was 3 months, and she said she didn't audition for this. It wasn't even on the radar.
Yeah, I remember.
It's something to do. I could be wrong. I might get told off here, but they've lowered the age of the leading actress because of the leading male.
Right.
So therefore, that's when Kath came in. So she rang me on the Tuesday directly after she had the phone call. She said, "I need to leave for Malta on Friday."
Yeah, I remember.
And Iris is 3 months old.
Yeah.
And bear in mind, I'm in the second year of photography.
Yeah.
And the first couple of months of BROOD.
Yeah.
So from that moment on, and we're still living it now because thankfully Good Ship Murder's gone, which is amazing. So from Cass' point of view, she's got repeat work, part of a great show.
Yeah.
But from my point of view, it's 4 months out the year where Cass' not here. And off the back of last year, where she also did a theatre tour as well too.
And the panto. It was 9 months, wasn't it, in total?
So 9 months in total. And then you're going into year 25 and she's off again.
Yeah.
So in regards to career, emotionally, it's hard.
Yeah.
Because just simple things like a job will come in, which is great news for me. An email will land. I'll check my diary whether I can do it. Great, I'm free. But then you're like, well, childcare, what day does it land? Can my mum and dad have them? Can Cass' mum and dad have them?
Yeah.
And it just, not tarnishes is a hard word, but there's always that underlining feeling of juggling in. I'm in London Thursday working. We've got BROOD Live Friday and I'm working Saturday.
Yeah.
So that's 3 days away from the kids.
Yeah.
So I've got to put the right childcare just to execute a job.
Yeah.
And again, it depends who they're with as well. So if they're with my mum and dad, great, but I am conscious of how long they've got them for, or when I can get them.
Yeah.
But we've also just started trying out a new babysitter as well. So that comes with added pressure, where I did a job last week where I was at the house for 3 hours.
Yeah.
At some point, you've got to leave your children with that person.
Yeah.
Who don't really know.
Yeah.
So then you're doing the job, but you're also worried about, has Iris gone down okay? Has Alfie had his tea? Did I put the wash on for his school uniform?
Yeah.
So it's so hard to keep that, to maintain that level of professionalism on your job, where you're doing the job right. But also that parenting just never leaves you whatsoever. The only time I fully relax on a job is if Catherine's home and then with the mum. So for 4 months of that, it's a lot. And that's the biggest challenge, I think.
I mean, you can see it in how torn you feel, even just the juggle of BROOD versus when you've got photography, and then on top of that, when the kids, you can see the emotional strain in you, and that's been a big obviously Kath felt it. I know last year she really felt being away from you all that long, and the kids me and Lila Rose went to Malta with you, didn't we, to see Kath. And I said to Rob, it was so hard that day that we were coming home, because you could physically see it in you, Alfie and Iris, and Iris, as little as she was, the change in her and stuff, and obviously she's felt it. It's hard
because since Iris came along, because she's so young and so vulnerable, your emphasis is on her. But Alfie, he's only 10 as well.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And because he is so mature and so sensible, you do try and like, Alfie's all right. I say it. Alfie's all right. He's used to it.
Yeah.
But it's going to be having an effect on us, and every now and again it does.
Yeah.
Rear its head that Alfie's being affected by it as well. So, and again, so I just talked about the work side, but then you've got the parenting side. Yeah. So Iris regressing with a toilet training every time Kath leaves again.
Yeah.
Is massive because that impacts me.
Yeah.
It's hard work.
Yeah.
But again, it just shows what's going on in her little head.
Yeah. And it's the worry that gives you as well, not just like the changing the knickers and outfit every 2 minutes, isn't it?
Well, I've had some absolute shockers with her, do you know what I mean? But again, it's like she's crying a lot at the moment.
Yeah.
So then you go, is it her age? Is it because she's missing her mum?
Yeah.
Is it because I'm not enough because her mum's not here?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it's like, do I discipline her or do I entertain her? But then you're scared about creating bad habits for when normality resumes, when Cass back.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And again, that goes with Alfie, whether I'm too harsh on him doing his homework in time, too harsh in turning up to football, or do you just let little things go because it's just about survival so we can get some normality back? But I guess we're 3 years in now, so that normality is what we're doing, I suppose.
Yeah.
So it's just about balancing that, really. And then,
I mean, you can beat yourself up as well all day long. I mean, even last night, me and Rob was like, because obviously planning the event, there's always the ups and downs. Anybody that plans events are going to know this. Like,
runs your
people
own
come
business.
in and out, like a sponsor last minute, not being able to sponsor because of just personal circumstances that are completely out of their control. And as a business, we always say health and family first, so that's what we're about, but it still then impacts us in different ways. And the stress, like the other day I was in the room with the kids and it's Lila Rose's birthday next week and all she can talk about is a bloody sleepover, and I get it, she's excited, but I keep trying to explain to her, darling, I've organised the date, all your friends are coming, everything's, it's organised. I can't really talk about it every day because we've got BROOD live first. And I don't mean to be horrible when I'm saying it, but as well, I'm stood in the kitchen thinking all I can think about is things I need to problem solve to do with BROOD. Yeah. And obviously in the background as well, we're another few weeks and edition 8 will be off to print. Yeah. So you've got that as well. And, me and Rob obviously being in the same household together, both with, if something doesn't happen, we both don't get paid, or you've got those different stresses. So even though we're both there, actually present in our heads, like yesterday we were like, God, I just feel really bad on the kids. So I just I was saying to you, I stayed in the garden till 6:45 last night with the kids because it was nice and just laughing and talking. My phone ran out of battery and I thought, you know what, that's a good thing. Leave it, because you get peppered around this time as well. And it's just so hard. I don't think any of us have got it right day to day, week to week.
I don't think you ever will. And again, that's something that I want to get across to our readers, because that's what I get from the magazine and doing the interviews. Nobody's nailed it. Nobody's got this magic solution of juggling your own business and being the perfect parent. I think you've just got to take little bits from each different story you hear and try and implement that for you. And the one thing what comes up a lot is people make time on a Sunday, don't they? I don't know if you've noticed.
We do it every week, don't we?
Sunday seems to be the day that we go, if nothing else, we'll have a sit down meal together. And when I say sit down, it's telly off, round a table.
We do it.
And there's a conversation there. And that's something I've tried to implement with the kids.
Yeah.
It doesn't always have to be a beautifully home-cooked Sunday roast, but it could be a takeout. But if you sat round a table and the telly's off, guess what? Conversations happen. Yeah. And I think that's any advice I give to anybody, no matter how manic the week is, if you can make time for that, I think it just makes everything
on
better.
whatever day that works for you, because I think it was Michelle Griffiths Robinson that said it to us first, wasn't it? Like I think every Wednesday and every Sunday, and that's it. Like, and we've kind of done that now with the kids. I mean, unless it's a party of one of the best friends, generally we're like, no, you don't go out on it. Yeah, I know. City do put a spanner in the works when they do a Sunday kick.
There's no right time to tell Rob that you're going to the football tonight that he doesn't know about.
I've already gone by there. I think one of the other things when we talk about worrying and over worrying, and that's why it's dead important with Brood that we do try and look at what are we doing for our kids. But the other on that flip side is like with us, I mean, it's Autism Awareness Month this month, and obviously it's a subject close to our hearts. And Hartley at the minute is in year 1 of a mainstream school, and as you know, he's non-speaking, and the worry that we have sometimes when we're, especially during deadline week or event week, you feel it, even though the other weeks you're there when they come home from school, you worry, is it our fault? Have we not put enough time in? And because during COVID, when he was at the time where he would start babbling, he was in a bloody jumperoo because we were trying to, homeschool Cole and Lila Rose, and Archer was 2 running around, and we were trying to run a business, and it's so... you can keep looking back and thinking, is that our fault? Did we not give him enough time then? And are we not giving him enough time now? And you can constantly beat yourself up. But at the same time, I think for anybody going through where their child has special education needs, not just autism or whatever, but I think we learn over the years that early intervention is the best thing possible, and it is frustrating at the minute because that early intervention isn't very accessible. Everybody, obviously, funding's gone down and everything, but Hartley was diagnosed at 4. He's 6 in August. He was also an August baby. He was 7 weeks premature, so bless him. By rights, he shouldn't even be in year 1. He should be in reception. So everything's kind of going against him. Yeah. But we did really. I think for any parent wondering or worrying that there might be something that the child needs attention for, I think the earlier they speak to somebody, the better, the earlier they get that diagnosis. And you do worry about labelling your child, but actually once they get that diagnosis and then they can get an EHCP, which is the Educational Healthcare Plan,
what does that mean then?
It means that they get support in the school setting, and it's a legal document, so the school has to adhere to whatever those targets are on that. Now, obviously, the mainstream school calls are trying the hardest, but even with the funding that he's got for one-on-one support, it's not full-time each day because the funding just isn't enough. It's changed massively over the last, decade and more, and I know it's a big thing. It's a big thing again, and there was a report about schools absent, kids not going into schools, attendance at an all-time low, and when you plunge into it, a lot of it is because of special education needs not being met. So even though Hartley's got his EHCP, he's got his diagnosis, everything's in place, we've actually listed a special school on that EHCP now, but because it's in a different council area, it's not just it's not simple
as easy as that.
No.
So even though Hartley's, like you said, been labelled, and you've found...
Yeah, we're doing everything we possibly can. Yeah, so it could be another year before he ends up in the right school setting, which is a autism specialist school, one of the best in the Northwest. So, we visited it, it'll be amazing. But how many days we've had to either pick up Hartley because he's just distressed at school, or we've not been able to send him in because if he's happy, he'll be clapping, putting on his uniform and smiling. And if he's screaming, putting on his uniform, he is not going to have a good day.
That doesn't magically go away,
no,
does it?
And it's not fair on us or him or them, So yeah, I think that's kind of, and that really does make us question sometimes when we're busy, are we neglecting? And the overall resounding thing from everybody that knows us is absolutely not.
And obviously I could probably witness that more than anybody. It's not, but again, you're always going to have that doubt.
Yeah. So anyway, maybe onto something positive now. So I just thought that might be nice for us to say what are our career highlights, because like we said, it's dead easy to keep beating yourself up and focusing on all the things that are hard with running a business and chasing your career dreams. But what would you say are your kind of in photography and Brood kind of highlights?
Again, I think present day, really, as much as I've just banged on about how bloody hard it is, it's all probably the most proudest, because I think I can turn around and say I'm a good dad, and I can turn around and say I'm a good photographer, which is a lot for me to say. Yeah. A lot for me to say. I think getting a lot of work now with some big brands, the retention's there. So I am starting to believe that I am a good photographer and people genuinely want to use me, and it's amazing. And some of the brands I'm working with is just insane, and I absolutely love it. And obviously, I think I posted last night on social media the images of what are in this latest edition. Do you know what I mean? So to have your images in a publication that's UK wide, and the readership we've got is fantastic, and something if you said 5 years ago when I was still in the gym without even picking up a camera. You know, it's crazy, like we've just said. So I think me just churning it out as I am now, trying to get that balance, probably my proudest moment.
It's mad when you see these things pop up on Instagram, don't I? I'm always like saving them for when I'm having a rough day, but and it'll say the life you're living now is the one you prayed for or wished for at some point. And when you look at it like that, it's like, even back to me and Rob thinking we'd never have kids, to have 4 when on the days they're driving you nuts, you're like,
remember that.
Just let's be grateful. And like I say, to have, it's not just a magazine either, it's the community, but it's stylish. It's this latest edition, I think, it's definitely been a career highlight. I think obviously going to print was massive, and that was a highlight. That the launch party, everything, the buzz about us going into print was amazing, and to see it come to life when it's been scribbled in your notebook for years was massive. But
we're doing it now, aren't we?
This edition, I think, you know, I feel confident with every part of it. There wasn't sleepless nights. Every time we get more organised, I think the quality, everybody's mentioned just how we're levelling up every time, which makes me nervous each time we release one and it's more as expected. But the brand partners that we've got, you know, San Carlo, James W, Hair Made Easy, you know, Georgie Bells, like we've got Me Hotel in London, a 5-star hotel in London in it this time. And it's just... that's really proud. I'm really proud of that, and I'm proud of. I mean, a career highlight for me was definitely publishing 2 books that I never ever thought I'd ever let anybody read, and I can't not mention when I met Mel B, obviously with her being patron of Women's Aid, and I'm one of the ambassadors. And she asked for my book and asked me to sign it. I mean, it's not every day you get a Spice Girl asking for your autograph in a book. So,
but it's nice to finish.
If you've read it, please plug it.
Post it. Yes. But it's nice to go full circle, because I feel like we've highlighted how hard it is for the last 45 minutes or whatever. But now it makes it all worthwhile because of what that small little answer we just give.
Yeah.
Because of when we both actually answered very similar in regards to it's what we're actually, you know, in the present day, not something that we achieved 10 years ago. It's what we're churning out now, and what we're producing now day to day is worth.
And when you look back, I think all the challenges, like if that hadn't have happened with my back, I'd probably be a senior occupational therapist somewhere running a tight ship on a ward. But that obviously wasn't my path, and when I think actually that could have been,
don't you?
Yeah, well, a ladder as well.
Path and a ladder and a star.
I think, you know, I just think that all those challenges and like my books and everything, all. When you look back, you think, that's why that happened. Yes. And because of that, I can relate to this, that, and the other. And that's what Broods are all about, just making relatable content that you know other people are going to need because you've been on that journey and you've needed it and it wasn't there. So,